If you've ever thought about going camping by yourself, solo, on your own, all that sort of stuff, I thought I'd put this video together on a few tips that I might be able to give you to go out and explore places by yourself and go out and do some touring, etc. So right now I'm camped on the Murray River, not too far from Tokemwall, actually on Yulupna Island, and I thought this might be a good time to give you a few ideas and a few things to do before you head out for that solo camp. So if you have been camping quite a bit and you're starting to think, you know what, I actually wouldn't mind heading out by myself and doing a bit of camping, and other people that you normally go camping with might have prior commitments and things like that, or people pull out at the last minute, which does happen. Life gets in the way of a few things and you still want to head out camping anyway, definitely go and do it. I'm guessing if you're watching this video you might have done a fair bit of camping already in the past, and if you haven't, I'll give you a few tips on things to do as well prior to going. There's a few key things to do. There's some obvious ones and maybe some that you haven't really thought of. Obviously let someone know where you're going. Take essential things, obviously, you know, your food, first aid kit, a map, and have a good idea of understanding maybe of the weather that's predicted as well, so then you're prepared for that as well. Things do change pretty quickly. An example, even this weekend where I am, thunderstorms and stuff have been predicted. I had a fair bit of rain yesterday evening, and then this afternoon it got quite warm and the sun was out, so just be prepared for all kinds of weather. So preparation's definitely a key when you're heading out by yourself. Like I mentioned, by letting someone else know where you're going, it's pretty simple. Even if you decide to change locations, a lot of places now have phone service and phone reception, and when you get to where you're camping you can even set a pin drop and just send that to someone of where you are. And if not, let someone know what time you're expected back. Seems pretty obvious, but often you hear of people unsure where they are, or they've gone missing or stuff. It's just good to let family and friends know. Often if I go away places, I'll let people know where I'm going and with mates and stuff, and they know the area that I'm going to as well. So if something was to happen here, I've been here before with my mates and camped, so they know exactly where I am, which is always a good peace of mind as well. So after you've done all, picked a spot where you're going to go, make sure you've got a reliable car, reliable vehicle, and that you're self-sufficient. Maybe at minimum a set of jumper leads. If you've got an auto in particular, you can always wave someone down somewhere to get a jump start if you really need it. But yeah, make sure your car's serviced and reliable. Make sure that you're up to date with your first aid and things like that as well, to look after yourself. And if not, at least have a first aid kit with you. I mentioned food and stuff before. Obviously that's pretty obvious, but always allow for a little bit extra, like water and your staples and things like that. If you're going to cook on a fire and you're planning on just cooking on a fire, maybe have a backup plan. You might need to take a stove or something. The conditions could change and you need to cook on a stove or something like that. But that's like camping anywhere. But it's more relevant, I think, for when you're camping by yourself, to have a bit of versatility in your camping setup. So if you've done a fair bit of camping and then, like I mentioned before, you've decided to go out by yourself, head to spots that maybe you are familiar with. Spots like this one here, it's a main campground. Yes, there's nobody else here, but you're not fully isolated. I know I can just walk back down the road, probably like a 2 kilometers down the road, there'll be someone definitely camped down there. So if you head to those spots that are more familiar, you might be a bit more relaxed and less, if you're a bit anxious and that's what's stopping you, you know, there's not someone too far away, or head to your more main campsites, your popular campgrounds. There's plenty in the high country where you'll pull in on a weekend and there's going to be other people camped around you. You're still camping by yourself, but you know, if you need someone, they're not too far away. So you've taken the plunge, you've gone out camping by yourself, and you're sitting by a river or you're sitting by a view, and maybe you've taken in a few walks and things like that, but you're sitting around camp and you're wondering, what do I do with myself? Just sitting here. I often get asked this question when I'm camping. What do you do at camp? So obviously I make videos for you guys to watch and check out. So that's something, you know, you do and that can occupy your time, or you just sit there. There's lots of things you can do. So for example, this weekend I've been reading the Cattlemen and Huts of the High Plains book. So I've been working my way through that, picking out different chapters and things like that. It's not all in order, but yeah, I've just been sitting there reading the book. Find something that you might want to learn more about, and maybe grab a book about that and read and stuff like that while you're sitting around the fire, or maybe delve into some camp cooking, anything like that to keep you occupied and maybe learn a new skill. But there's definitely plenty to do sitting around camp. Of course, there is times when you're sitting there and you're just going, oh well, I'm just sort of sitting here. But you know, even at this campsite this morning, I went for a walk just out that road I drove in on, up around the river, and had a look around. And I don't really get bored too often. I actually enjoy camping by myself, which is probably why I do so much of it. If you go through my channel here, you'll see a lot of my trips are just by myself, out camping, exploring, checking out things. Even only a few weeks ago, found some cool mine sites and things like that and walked into there. So there's always something to check out. Maybe, you know, you do your research before you head out checking out these places, and then a few points of interest. If you've got a good camera, like most phones do now, you can capture all that sort of stuff as well and learn some new skills that way with photography perhaps. But there's always something you can learn, and you notice a lot more things. I personally think I notice a lot more things when I'm away by myself. So you've decided to go camping by yourself, and you're sitting around camp and it's pretty quiet. You're used to maybe a bit of noise from home life or work or anything like that. You like a bit of music, you're used to having it on in your car, and next thing you pulled up at the campsite and it's quiet. What I've recently got is this little speaker. I like it being quiet, but it's also good sometimes just to have some tunes on, or to sit it on the table there or on the little side table there behind me. Just find your favourite playlist to pop on, or a podcast or something like that. And it just breaks that little bit of the sound up, and while that's going, you're sitting by your fire or cooking dinner or anything like that. But yeah, one of these, I think that was only $59 or something like that. Good little present for someone, or a present for yourself. Alright, so let's talk about firewood at camp. Now, ideally, you don't want to be out there on a big chainsaw collecting your firewood by yourself, because no matter how good you are, accidents do happen. But if you are out there by yourself, make sure you have all the PPE on, good chainsaw helmet and some chaps and some steel cap shoes. You see a lot of guys using chainsaws in thongs and things like that, and they're absolutely crazy in my opinion. It doesn't take much to take a toe off. So a good way to get around that is just, you're going to need fuel for your car anyway. When you swing past the servo, grab a couple of bags of firewood. Your kindling, you know, is pretty much taken care of. You're not at a campsite if you go one of those more popular ones trying to find a bit of wood off the ground. And even the bags of firewood, quite manageable there. Just use that. Or even if you have firewood at home, what I often do, you just pre-pack a couple of firewood bags, throw them in the FJ there, so when I get to camp I know I'm guaranteed some nice dry firewood, particularly if I'm cooking on the fire. Just eliminates having to hunt and scrounge for a bit of firewood, especially if you get to camp a bit late. I camp a lot all year, so if you get to camp in winter time, I know I've got to have some nice dry firewood. And just remember, you're by yourself, so you've got to set up your camp, get your lighting out, get your fire pit out and get your fire going. If you get to camp just on dark, it just makes it that little bit easier. So at camp, some people might get a bit nervous around night time when it's pitch black and it's dark and stuff like that. Lighting is super cheap. You know, good LED torches, headlamps, even cars have lights and things like that all hooked up and wired in off it. There's not a lot out there that's going to hurt you. So, like last night at this camp, there's a koala not too far from here, and he's grunting and groaning and making noises, but it's not like a big grizzly bear is going to come waltzing out of the bush and get you. So yeah, you're pretty right. I don't really worry about too much, but the only thing I do keep an eye out for a lot, particularly now it's warming up, obviously, are snakes around camp, etc. But when it gets to night time, like last night, it was super dark and black here, but clearly I'm right next to a river. You don't want to go wandering too far from your camp without a light on, especially like along these rivers and other rivers. If there's a big drop off to a bank, you don't want to wander too far from camp in the wrong direction, and next thing you end up in a river or something like that. But that's where your cheap lights come in super handy. Righto, I'm just going to wrap it up here. I don't reckon there's too much I've forgotten on the basics of going out camping by yourself. Hopefully this has given you a few ideas and a little bit more confidence to head out camping on your own. I've been doing it for years, and I will continue to do it for many years to come. So if there's something I've forgotten, which no doubt I have, or an idea that you guys could teach me, feel free to pop it in the comments down below. I reply to every comment there, and who knows, maybe one day we'll run into each other somewhere out camping. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.